Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Buck fan JK here, and man, I hope you guys are as excited as I am for Sunday main slate football. Thursday was great, everybody likes watching football, but it's gonna get real on Sunday when everybody's playing, and this is a 12-game slate, so it's very exciting for me. Um, I don't really know how I'm going to do these formats because if I don't find some kind of way to not talk about everybody, obviously, it will be so long of a video. Basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run through kind of my main player pool type guys, the guys that I'm looking at in my tournament styles and my cash games. And then for this particular video, we're going to build a cash lineup because that is where most of your safe money is. So we're going to build a cash lineup in this video. I'm just going to go through kind of my main players. That doesn't mean I'm talking about everybody. Right now it's Saturday at roughly 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so there's plenty of news that could change the slate. But I'm just kind of going to go over my initial player pool. So with that being said, see you in just a second. I just wanna see the light. Okay, guys, so let's start off at quarterback. And obviously, the most expensive guy is Lamar Jackson. Mahomes is not on the slate. At 8,100, I don't know that I'm going to love having a lot of Lamar Jackson. I think he's definitely in play. If I'm running him in a tournament lineup, he's probably going to be naked. I don't love that price point. I feel like there's just a lot of cheap guys to get to this week. I could potentially pair him with Andrews or Marquise Brown, but a lot of the time I'm probably just going to run him naked. Russell Wilson, pretty fair price point at 7K. Still a little more than I really want to spend, but in tournaments I don't mind spending that because there's some pretty clear stacking options with Metcalf and Lockett. It's also a really good game to run it back with the Falcons. But if I'm going to stack that game, I'm most likely going to go down there to Matt Ryan at 6,700. I think there's plenty of clear stack options with him. You could stack Julio, you could stack Ridley, you could stack Hurst. I don't think I would stack Gurley with him, but if you're making a Seahawks stack, you could run it back with Gurley. Gurley's gonna. We'll talk about Gurley when we get to running backs. Brady's kind of interesting at 6,500. Breeze is also interesting there at 6,800. That game has potential shootout. Breeze has Kamara and Thomas, as well as Sanders that you could stack. You could potentially even get to Cook. I don't love that, though. Brady without Evans, I mean, you're looking at potentially Godwin, Scott Miller, and that's kind of it. You maybe could pair Gronk or OJ Howard and hope one of them gets a touchdown, but I don't love that. I think at their price points, though, I'd much rather stack Matt Ryan. Let's scroll down a little bit. Josh Allen, he's not really in play for me. Kyler, you could get to a Arizona stack, but I don't love it. Wentz is pretty interesting there at 6,300. I like that matchup for him. Granted, that pass rush in Washington is really, really good. It was really good last year, and they had Chase Young. So, I mean, their edge defenders are ridiculous. Montez Sweat, Chase Young. They've still got Kerrigan, Matt Ioannidis inside. Their line is ridiculous. But that price point, they're gonna have Philly should win that game pretty easily. So I imagine there's plenty of opportunity there. Don't love Rodgers at that price. He was interesting to me, but now I'm not really so sure about that because with Galladay pretty much going to be ruled out. I think he's still doubtful at this time, but I don't think he's going to play. I don't really love Stafford at that cost. Cam Newton's very interesting. Miami's not very good. I think that he's a good play. I think that you can stack him with Edelman. I think in a GPP you could probably stack him with Harry as well. I don't think I'd get much further than that, but you could even play him naked if you wanted to. Rivers, slight interest there. I think Jacksonville's defense is just so bad that you could play Rivers and be okay with it. You could also stack him with T.Y. Hilton, Paris Campbell for cheap in a GPP. There's some options there. Bridgewater's a little interesting. I don't think the Raiders' defense is great, even though they did add a couple decent linebackers in the offseason. Carr, I liked him a little bit early on because the Panthers' defense is just really bad. But I'm not as crazy as I was when I started this process. But I do think that Carr has a lot of interest there. I mean, Carolina's defense just has nobody there, so they could potentially just torch that defense left and right. And he's got some decent weapons this year, so I think that there's potential for a decent game from Carr there. Not really getting to Minshew or Burrow early on. I like Jimmy G a lot, but with Debo going to be out, Ayuk going to be out, like I don't know that they have to throw the ball a lot to beat Arizona, but this is a soft defense on the secondary. I mean, Buda Baker is really good, but he's not a scary cover guy. He's a high tackle box safety, so I'm not really worried about that. But I don't know who I could pair him with other than Kittle, and that doesn't really excite me if I'm stacking for a tournament. Scrolling down, the last guy here I've got here on the list. Actually, there's two more. Tyrod Taylor, who we're going to punch in for our cash lineup here. I think Tyrod Taylor price is just way too cheap. I mean, he could go for 20 points in this matchup. The Bengals defense isn't really that scary. He's got good rushing upside. Like it's very hard to get a rushing quarterback that cheap. And his weapons are pretty good. He's got Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Austin Eckler. I don't think Mike Williams is going to be playing, but I mean they've got plenty of other wide receivers there to cover that. I think that Tyrod Taylor at 5,600 is pretty good. And then the last guy I wanted to talk about was Trubisky. And I know nobody loves playing Trubisky, and I'm not going to get to him in cash for sure, even though he's really cheap. He would be a GPP play, and you could pair him with Allen Robinson and also Anthony Miller. And he's played pretty good against Detroit in the history of his career, so he's got a rushing upside. So I think that Trubisky could be fine in a GPP. I wouldn't go very heavy on him because he's likely to lose you money before he's going to win you money. But at 5,400, there's a lot you could do with your lineup. I would probably rather stick with Tyrod for $200 more, but if you need that 200, like there's a stack potential there, and you can run it back with Marvin Jones. So now, clicking over to running back, no surprise, Christian McCaffrey there at 10K. I think that DraftKings is just afraid to properly price him. I think he should be worth even more than that. He could. He's good in any lineup you put him in. If you want to put him in a cash lineup, I don't fault you. If you want to put him in a GPP, like it's not gonna hurt you. I just have a hard time getting to 10K even in cash this week, just because I mean, look at that. It's $2,100 cheaper for the next guy on the list. Like to me, that's kind of crazy. But Christian McCaffrey, if you want to save 25 to 30 points every week, like that's what he's going to give you. So I don't hate that. Next is Cook. Obviously, he's got a pretty fair matchup. I don't love it. It's not great. It's not terrible. For a $2,100 price discount, like that's not a fine pivot. He has the same upside as McCaffrey. He can go for 30, 35 points any given week. I'm probably not going to get a lot of them, but I can understand getting there. Kamara, which I think we're going to go ahead and slot in as our first running back, because in cash I like to do more running back heavy approach. So I think for Kamara, as a Buccaneer fan, I know that our run defense is very scary, and Kamara did not do very much against us last year at all. Actually, nobody did. We even held Christian McCaffrey to pretty low scores both of those games. But I think that the upside in his receiving game work, the DraftKings is full PPR. I think that there's a chance that he gets even 20, 25 points in this game, even with our rush defense being so suffocating. I just think this game has shootout potential, and I think that he's going to be involved in the offense. He just got his new contract. I think he's going to be motivated. I think this is a good spot. And it's $7,200. Like, that's almost $3,000 cheaper than Christian McCaffrey, and he's got the same ceiling. So it's kind of nuts. Eckler, I liked him more early on, but for only $200 more, I can get Kamara. So I don't. At his price point, like it's a good price point, and it's a soft pricing, but I just don't know that I can get there very often. I'd rather pay up for Kamara or pay down for one of these next guys here. Jones, somewhat interesting. I don't really love the matchup. Even with Hunter out, I think that the Vikings defense is underrated. I just, man, I'm so worried about that timeshare there, and I just feel like that at 6,900, he's gonna have like I'd rather have the guys ahead of him or below him. It's kind of like Eckler. I think that he's got a decent ceiling there, but I'm not sure about the volume. I still think that Matt LaFleur is not a very good coach, and I think he's going to run a committee, and I just don't love that. Josh Jacobs, though, again, I talked earlier about Carolina's terrible defense. I think Josh Jacobs is going to destroy in this matchup. I don't even like Josh Jacobs that much, but even if he gets 3 receptions and 18 carries, which is very, very possible in this matchup, I think that he's going to destroy this price point at 6,800. So we're going to go ahead and slot him in as our RB2. I kind of like that core of Kamara and Jacobs. I think that's a good starting point for most of your cash lineups. So let's kind of keep going down this list. Mixon, he's in play at this price point. I'm not really going to get there very often. I think, like I said, Jacobs is too close to him, and I just project Jacobs to score more points. Chubb at that price is terrible. Sanders, he was a really good value before he got ruled out, but I wasn't going to play him once he got that questionable tag because it's just too risky, especially in a cash lineup like we're making right now. Drake, I don't like that price. Carson is in play here at 6,200. I think I would rather stack the the passing game weapons in this game, other than Carson or Gurley. But I think both of these running backs here are right next to each other. I think that they're in play in GPPs. I think that they have touchdown upside, and I think the prices are pretty fair. I don't love them, but I don't hate them. So I feel like that's something that's definitely an option there. Fournette's not in play. We have no idea what that backfield is going to look like. James White at 6K, like he's got to be in play because their running back group right now, we don't know what's going to happen with that group. So I'm not really sure that I want to play White, but he's got to be in play because they just don't have a lot of weapons. Montgomery, I'm not touching that questionable tag. Mostert's no thank you. Jonathan Taylor, early in the week, man, I was pretty high on this game for Taylor. And in my dynasty leagues, I'm starting Taylor this week. I'm not going to worry about it. But in my cash lineup, I don't love it. I mean, I really think he's only going to get 8 to 10 touches in this game. I think Mack is going to be the lead back in this game. I think that there's potential for Jonathan Taylor to bust off an 80-yard run. Jacksonville's defense is not good at all. But I just don't want to lean on that in a cash lineup. I would not be upset with you playing Taylor in a GPP, and I probably will have him in some GPPs. But I just don't think that I think his upside is higher in our minds than it will be in this game because I do think that they're going to ease him in, even if he goes nuts. I just don't think he's going to completely take over this game. Maybe later, maybe 2 games from now, but I just don't think it's right now. 5,600 for Bell. I mean, that's fair, but I don't love it. 5,500 for Ingram. That's a fairly good price. There's a chance that he pays that off pretty well. And versus the guys in this range, I like it, but I don't think I'm going to get to Ingram a whole lot. Devin Singletary's a no. Marlon Mack is. I would rather play him at 5,300 than Taylor at 57 because, like I said, I do believe Marlon Mack's going to lead this backfield. I bet he gets 15 to 18 touches. So I think I would rather play him in a GPP than Taylor. I wouldn't mind Mack in cash. Mack's not going to be very owned, though, so I don't know if you have to go there in cash. But in a GPP, I think nobody's on Marlon Mack. And maybe that's for a reason, but I think that he's going to get 15 to 18 touches. And against the Jaguars, that should be a pretty good game. Not touching Tampa, as I mentioned before. Howard's a no thank you. Hunt's a no thank you. Breida's a no thank you. Let's keep scrolling. The next guy on my list would be Tariq Cohen at 4,900. I think that this is fair, but I'm probably not gonna. I liked him more earlier, so maybe I'm gonna take him out of my player pool now. I just think that the Miles Sanders injury opened up a better spot right here below him in Boston Scott at 4,800. Scott's not a bad guy. I loved him when he played for the Saints. Then he came over to the Eagles. I think that his ceiling with this offense is going to be Scott and Clement, and I think that's pretty much it. So he's going to get a lot of catches. He's going to get a lot of runs. I think that Scott, and we're going to go ahead and throw him in our flex here, but I think that he's just got a really good upside here in this game. And at 4,800, it's hard to get a better upside. So let's go ahead and keep scrolling down a little bit. We got a few more guys to talk about. I'm scrolling over all these guys. I don't love them. Carry On's potentially in play at only 4,400, but man, I just don't love it. I don't know what they're going to do. That backfield's very crowded. Chase Edmonds, if he stays that cheap later down the season, he might be worth something, but I just don't think it's there yet. Coleman at 4,200, that's a pretty good price. I'd rather play him than Mark Mostert at that price. I think he's going to be involved. I don't really think Mostert's much to hang your hat on. It seemed like that offense always wanted to keep going back to Coleman, so he's somewhat interesting at 4,200. And then down here in the 4K range, there's a few guys. I don't necessarily want to scroll through all these, but I can go ahead and mention them. Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, both of those guys are mint price at 4K. I think both of those guys have some somewhat upside. I think Gibson's obviously the higher upside of the two. I don't know what they're going to do with that backfield, though, so I don't really want to play him, especially in cash. But in a GPP, he's definitely worth throwing in a couple lineups, especially at stone minimum 4K. Also, Chris Thompson and James Robinson. Both of those guys are in play. I think I'd rather play Robinson. I honestly think I might play Robinson over Gibson, but Gibson definitely has the higher ceiling. I don't think Robinson is going to win you any tournaments. But he's definitely going to get some volume. What that volume is, maybe that's 10 to 12 touches. But he was a mega producer at Illinois State, and I think that he has a chance to do something good. I don't know that he's going to go nuts here though. And then the last guy was Jerick McKinnon, and I just at 4K, it's somewhat interesting. I don't know that you have to get there. I don't know what that backfield is going to look like. They run a committee, but it's somewhat interesting at 4K. All right, so now here's where we got to speed up because we got a lot of wide receivers on the list. Then you have to. So Michael Thomas and Julio, both of those are fair prices for what they can give you. I think I would rather not play those guys, but you have to have them. If I'm playing these guys, it's probably going to be in a stack. I don't want to run naked Julio this week just because I feel like there's better prices. The next two guys, though, I love these guys, Adams and Godwin. Both of these guys are way too cheap. Obviously, Evans was going to be playing. I assume Evans is out. Think he's still doubtful. Let's actually click on this and make sure. Yeah, he's still doubtful. I don't think he's going to play, and if he does, he's going to be limited. This is the first game of the season. We don't want to ruin the season. So I think Godwin being the main guy there, I think he's going to have plenty of targets. I think Adams, he's the only guy there. So we're going to throw both of these guys into our lineup right now and kind of see if we can fit somebody else in. But I think there's plenty of cheap options to make this work. But Adams and Godwin are both priced way too cheap, in my opinion. Let's keep scrolling down through here. Thielen, he's somewhat interesting. He's the main guy there in Minnesota. I don't know who the second guy is. I mean, obviously it's BC Johnson or Smith. I don't think Jefferson's going to get a lot of run this game. I don't think Rudolph's anything to worry about, but he's going to get most of the targets, and he's kind of their main guy. But at 6,700, it's not that much more to get up to these other guys, and then there's guys below them that I think have similar upside. So I'm not really going to get there a lot. DJ Moore is very interesting. You can run him naked. I think that matchup is very good. His price point probably a little higher than I'd want to pay, but it's not bad considering the rest of the guys around him. Robinson, you can stack him with Trubisky. You can run him naked. I think that 6,500, that's a pretty good value. He's going to get a lot of targets on that offense like he did last year. He's going to get a lot of catches. So I think that's a pretty good price point. Lockett and Metcalf both. I can talk about him now. I like Lockett more, even though he's more expensive. That's a good matchup. Atlanta's defense has nobody there. I mean, I can't even name you who their secondary corner is other than AJ Terrell, their rookie. Like, it's that bad. Keanu Neal's still in the safeties, but, like, I just don't know that Atlanta's going to be able to stop anybody this year. They're similar to Carolina, where their defense is just really bad. Lockett should eat there. I like that price. Diggs is okay. I don't love it. Jets secondary is not very great. No, they got rid of Adams, but I think Marcus May is going to be fine. Keenan Allen, that's a good price there. It's against Cincinnati. That's a good stack option with Tyrod Taylor. I wouldn't hate that. And if I was looking for a stack, then that's probably the guy I'd want to stack with Tyrod. I probably wouldn't be upset with Eckler with Tyrod or with Henry. But for cash, I don't mind not stacking. And Tyrod, especially if okay, so let's talk about just a little philosophy thing. In cash, if you have a rushing quarterback, I don't feel like I have to stack as often. But if I'm throwing a cash lineup with a passing quarterback, I usually still want to at least line up one of those receivers. But Tyrod's got a pretty decent rushing floor, so I feel like I would be okay with naked stacking him, especially since the pricing's so soft this week that you can just make plenty of crazy lineups. So next, Chark's a little interesting at 6,300. I don't necessarily see the need to get to him, especially considering some of the other guys how cheap they are. But Chark at 6,300 is fair. Ridley at 6,100, great stack option for Matt Ryan. That's a good price there. He's got 2 touchdown upside any week. Boyd's fair price. Edelman's fair price. Both of those guys would be in my player pool. Odell Beckham at 5,900. I don't love the matchup, but Odell Beckham for 5,900 feels like he's worth throwing into a couple GPP lineups just for the price. Metcalf again, good price there. T.Y. Hilton's definitely a good price there. He's going to be probably pretty owned. Very good GPP play. Honestly, I think he's fine in cash. I think his upsides and his floor is pretty good. Emmanuel Sanders against Tampa Bay, our secondary is not very good, so I think Emmanuel Sanders has plenty of opportunity in this game as well. Terry McLaurin at 5,600, that's a really good price. He's still the main weapon there for the Washington football team. I don't know who else they got other than Steven Sims, Logan Thomas. So I think that McLaurin definitely has a really good opportunity here. Philly's back end is still not very good. I'm not worried about Darius Slay at all. So I think that this is still a fine matchup. Um, we're gonna punch him in and see what we can do with this. We may have to change things though, but for now, let's punch him in. Let's keep looking. So Marvin Jones at 5,500, very good price. No Galladay most likely, but I don't think that that really means anything extra for Marvin Jones. Like he might get a couple more targets, but I think whoever that guy that comes in, which I don't know who that is at the top of my head, I think dynasty players hope that it's Cephas, but I don't think it's going to be Cephas. It's Amendola is already playing in the slot, so I don't think he's going to get an increased run. So whoever that third guy ends up being, that's probably where the opportunity comes as a cheap guy. I don't think Jones gets too much more attention there, but 5,500 is already a fair price, and you can stack him with Stafford if you want to. Looking through here, Crowder at 5,200, he's interesting for his floor. Tre'Davious White's probably not going to be on him in the slot, so I think that Crowder, he's made basically what they have. They've got Crowder, they've got Herndon, and that's all I'm worried about. Marquise Brown's 51, that's fine. Ruggs at 51. I'd probably rather play Ruggs than Marquise Brown. Again, that Panthers defense is just really bad. Then again, Cleveland, I'm pretty sure their secondary is a little banged up too. But I'd probably rather play Ruggs at that price. Miller at 5,000 is pretty good. Not playing Kirk. Deshaun Jackson, 4,900. I was way higher on him earlier in the week when I figured Rager was going to be out. But it sounds like Rager's going to play. I still think Deshaun Jackson in a GPP at 4,900 is a really good play. I'm not going to get there in cash, though. I was there in cash beforehand. I don't think I'm getting there now. Lazard at 4,900. That's fine if you want to stack him with Rodgers. I don't love it, though. I'm not playing him in cash at all. I don't think that his upside's really good. I don't think he's a very great player. Let's keep going. Let's see. Cheap guys, cheap guys, cheap guys. Steven Sims, we already talked about him. Where is he? Right there. We already talked about him. He's one of their guys. They don't have very many guys, so he's worth talking about. Next guy on the list will be way down here. Brian Edwards, 4,200. Look, if you know me, you know I love Brian Edwards. Dude is a beast. 4,200 is pretty cheap. I don't know what his role is going to be in the offense, but I think he's really good. And I think, as I've said tons of times, I think the Panthers defense is really bad. So I think that there's plenty of opportunity that he could just go out there and just erupt here. I'm not getting there in cash, but he's going to be in some GPP lineups, especially at that cheap price tag of 42. And then there's a couple more. Traquan Smith and Scotty Miller, same game, both same 4K. Both of those guys have big play upside. I wouldn't get there in cash, but in GPPs, they're fine for stacks or run back options. And then the last guy would be Paris Campbell at 39. I just think that he's going to be involved in that offense. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people on him. So if you're looking for a cheap wide receiver option, I think that he's definitely worth playing in the GPP. All right, so let's go to tight end. This one should be a lot quicker than the last position. So to start it off, George Kittle, obviously 7,200. He's probably worth it. I mean, the Cardinals, they were known as the place to play your tight end last year. They've gotten a little better, though. They drafted Isaiah Simmons, kind of a linebacker safety hybrid. Not sure if Buda will cover Kittle like he did last year, or if they'll assign that to Isaiah Simmons. But honestly, they'll probably double Kittle because they don't have anything else. Ayuk and Debo are both probably going to miss this game. If not, they're going to be very limited. So I don't think you really have to play Kittle here, even though it's a soft matchup on paper. But at 7,200, like he's obviously the main guy for his offense and obviously the best tight end player available if money was not an option. You have to talk about these three guys: Andrews, Waller, Ertz. All three of those guys are in play. Out of these three, I prefer Ertz, then Waller, then Andrews, based on the price. I think Ertz has the highest upside. Andrews, though, can always go nuclear. I just think that Ertz is going to be the most involved in his offense this week. Scrolling through here, I don't really love Cook's price. As I mentioned, you could stack him with Breeze earlier, but for his price point, you either want to get up or down most of the time. Hunter Henry is kind of the same situation. You can stack him with Tyrod, but at his price point, I don't like this middle 5,500 to like 4K range for the most part. I don't want Hooper, Gronk. I just don't trust him. He has to get touchdowns. I just don't know that that's going to happen week one, but maybe it does. Um, I'm not playing Gasecki this week. Hurst is somewhat interesting, and you can stack him with Ryan at 4,300. That's pretty cheap, especially if he kind of gets that Hooper roll. Hawkinson's pretty interesting there at 4,200. Goddard at 4,100. I would honestly be okay with playing Goddard over Ertz just for the money, the discount, because you don't know which one of those guys is going to score the touchdowns this week. It could be either one of them. Ertz is going to have more catches, more receptions, and more routes run, but Goddard's going to be just as involved in the red zone more often than not. So, like, if you want to bet on Goddard getting a touchdown and Ertz just getting 10 catches, like, that's something that you could do. Um, not much left here. Let's keep looking. Let's see. Whew. You gotta get pretty far down from the next guy. Ian Thomas is somewhat interesting at 34. I skipped over somebody here. Jack Doyle at 36. I think that's a pretty good price. I think he's pretty interesting. I kind of don't have a lot of him yet, but I think I'm liking him more and more as the week goes on. Um, it's just not very sexy. And then, like I said, Ian Thomas is interesting in this matchup. Chris Herndon, who we're going to plug into our little cash lineup here. I just think that he's going to have so much opportunity. And yes, this is not a great matchup against Buffalo, but they just don't have a lot of guys to throw the ball to. And if Buffalo's up like you would imagine they would be, Darnold should throw the ball at least 35 times. This target's got to go somewhere. Crowder's not going to get 15 targets, or maybe he will, but he ain't going to get 20. I mean, Herndon's going to get some targets here. He's got 8 to 10 target upside. He's got touchdown upside at 3,300. Like, that's just so cheap that I feel like I have to get some exposure to that. And then there's two more guys here. Irv Smith, 3,100. That's a fair price. I don't know. He's kind of got that mystery role. Like, we think he's going to be the number 2 receiver, but we don't know yet. It's kind of too early in the year to know. I don't love the Green Bay matchup. Like, it's kind of one of those things like in a GPP, it's fine because he could do something, but I don't think I'd get there in cash. And lastly, again, not a cash play, but another interesting guy for cheap, Logan Thomas. He's been hyped all off season. He's the guy in Washington, and they just don't have anybody. So Logan Thomas at 2,800, that's somebody that you could play, and maybe he scores a touchdown. But at 2,800, he's not going to hurt you if he gets 5 catches for 50 yards. So let's go over here. Check out defense. I'm not going to talk about defense. My strategy for defense is fit the best looking defense you can for the money you have left. And in this case, we have $2,300. So I don't love this defense. Jacksonville, no. This game's gonna be a shootout, so no. Tampa Bay shootout, no. Cleveland, I don't think they're gonna stop Baltimore. Jets versus Buffalo. Even though they're on the road, Josh Allen could throw picks. The Jets defense can force turnovers. Like, it's fine. It's $2,100. I just don't want them to kill me. But so there you go. That's what we got for a cash lineup. Tyrod, Kamara, Jacobs, Adams, Godwin, McLaurin, Herndon, Scott, and Jets defense. I think that looks like a really good cash lineup. I mean, that looks like it's going to win some money. I mean, the pricing is so soft. And if you wanted to get to McCaffrey, you can. But for this week, and I know McCaffrey is like almost always, it's like just put McCaffrey in your cash lineup and you're just going to win money. But this week, I just think that the pricing is so soft on everybody else that if you don't get McCaffrey, you can get Kamara, Jacobs, Adams, and Godwin. Like, that's 4 ridiculous potentially top 5 guys at their position this week for one cash lineup. Like, that's just nuts. So this is kind of what I'm going to be playing in cash lineups. We'll see what goes on for my GPPs. Again, I kind of mentioned all the different stacking options. Hope you guys do well this week. This is going to be a very fun, exciting week for me. I'm very excited to watch football again. Just can't wait to just enjoy some red zone and then watch that Saints-Bucks game. That's going to be so fun. So anyway, hope you guys do well. Did want to mention, if you're still here, if you have any questions or kind of want to ask me any questions for lineups and stuff, since this is coming out, pretty decently ahead of the slate itself, and there's some injury stuff that could change things. My Twitter is going to be linked down below in the bio. Just reach out on Twitter. I'll I'll be able to catch whatever questions you have and help answer those. So yeah, so we'll see you again. I don't know if I'm gonna post something for the Sunday Showdown slate. I don't usually play the Sunday Showdown. I'm just busy all Sunday, so I don't really have a lot of time to dig in. But we will get something up for the Monday slate. That'll probably come sometime Monday morning, I would imagine. So we'll see you guys next time. Hope you have a good time, and hopefully you win some money. Peace.